up to this point, I had gone to the VA for help probably about 6 or 7 times. But every time I get to the front door, I would say, you know what? I'm good. And I would turn around, go home and go. I would mask the feeling and I go back to doing what I was doing. So I get to the VA, sliding doors open up. This guy, because of COVID, they have to, do all this stuff. Takes my temperature and he's like, how can I help you? And I said, honestly, bro, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to see tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to make it through the night. And he's like, and he looked at me like he's seen this before. And he took me down this, felt like a long, like a 1.5 mile long hallway. But we ended up at the end of this hallway. I'm in the emergency room and just next thing you know, I'm talking to a shrink and she says, so you want to kill yourself? I said, pump the brakes. I don't want to, but this is what I feel. She said, what do you mean you don't want to? I said, I got a dope life. I said, my wife and I race Ducatis. She's like, you race Ducatis? I ride a Ducati. So now we start talking motorbikes, right? And I was like, there's no reason for me to not be able to feel. I said, I have been way too blessed. All of my family, we all live on the same block. I'm pointing like the house is over there. We all drive Porsches. Like everybody's doing well for themselves. I said, I'm doing too well to feel the way that I feel. I was like, I don't know how to feel. And she said, okay. And then she said, EMDR. I was like, all right, I'll try it. And bro, EMDR, the business. I love EMDR. Game changer. What's up, stud?
Big Dom, what's up, man?
How you doing this morning?
Hey, I just got better.
There it is. I love it.
It's great to meet you, man.
You too, man. You too. Always good to meet a fellow veteran.
Yes. So, dude, thank you so much for doing this, bro. I'm stoked, man. I'm super stoked.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite, man.
Okay, so everybody that's either watching this on YouTube or listen on the podcast here, I'm with this super duper real deal Holyfield, Big Dom Faussette. We are twins. He's just got a little darker shade. He is smooth.
And no beard.
That's right. But y'all, I'm super stoked. This guy, former Air Force, former LEO, law enforcement officer. He's a leadership speaker, motivational speaker, corporate facilitator, executive coach. He's an author of Passion to Profit. His hashtag is #TRLU, which is think as an executive, react like a soldier, and lead you. This guy is absolutely the beasties. He races motorcycles. He is bad to the bone. He's got an amazing family. Super stoked to talk to you today, Dom. Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Of course. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, and I've got a ton of questions for you, but let's start with this one. When you started out, one of the things that was kind of neat reading your bio is that you said you were very quiet until you were 21.
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't until you were 21 serving in the U.S. Air Force as a canine handler, you learned how to be comfortable in your own vulnerability when you developed a relationship and talked to your dog.
Right.
What was that? So I guess a couple questions. One, why were you quiet? Two, how did you make that transition into who you are today?
So I was quiet because I stuttered. I stuttered from the age of 6, where like I couldn't introduce myself. So it was just easier not to talk. And hindsight, you learn a lot about yourself as time goes on. So when you get deployed with the canine with your dog is your partner. You don't get to hang out with the fire team. You're by yourself a lot because you got to train your dog still while you're on deployment. When you're sent out into the field, it's typically you and your dog. You get dropped off or you got a Jeep or something. But I would just talk, the sand starts talking to you and you just start talking to your dog. And when, you got 12, 13, 14, 15-hour shifts and it's just you and Clint. Clint was my canine, was my dog out there. And I realized that as I studied speaking, the reason I was comfortable talking to my dog was because my dog didn't judge me. So I could have all these conversations with Clint and he was a captivated audience. He would just stare at me, right, like a dog does. So as I gained confidence, and after deployment, I just got to a point of I don't stutter anymore. I mean, when I'm tired, I might stutter now, but not to the point where, I mean, I teach people how to speak and I speak all over the place. So obviously I don't stutter, but I learned the power of just saying what you're supposed to say and then shut up. But I also grew up I look at it like this. God said it wasn't time for me to speak. So where I grew up, you could say the wrong thing and get stabbed. Like I got stabbed my sophomore year in high school. You could say the wrong thing and get shot. Like your mouth could get you murdered. So I think for me, it was like God's way of saving my life. And then when I finally had a voice, I had already established myself as a man. So I didn't say childish things.
Wow, that's money. Were you a leader in your childhood, even though you were quiet, or no?
So I'm a firstborn, and I wouldn't say I'm a leader as I see leadership today, but I was forced to lead. So there's four of us. I'm the oldest, and the rule in our household from my parents was one, protect your siblings. If anybody threatens them or harms them and you don't knock them out, I'm gonna knock you out. So I can't hit my mom back, but I can knock out my neighbor, right? I can give my neighbor all my heat. Whether I win or lose, I can still put my hands on them. But I can't do that with my mom. So I'm not trying to get like, okay, something happens. And then when you would walk to school, you just learned how to be so you could live. I didn't see myself as a leader until I got into the military, because then I was taking ownership of things. And then after the military, you kind of get out into the civilian space or you jump into law enforcement. And then you know that the more you lead, the less you really got to do. You just got to learn how to lead and delegate. And I was reading John Maxwell books since I was like 11 or 12. My mom made me do them. So I was turned into a leader because of the environments I was placed in.
That's massive. So I talk a lot about environment and how much environment matters. That's huge. What do you think along your journey of from where you started to being this global entrepreneur and speaker and executive coach and all that you do? What do you think impacted you the most emotionally? What grew you the most emotionally?
Two things. One, seeing a 5-year-old little black girl get zipped up into a body bag. That was rough. I think the biggest shift for me was as a cop, and that happened as a cop as well. I long story short, I got flagged down, but I was in a position to take a man out in front of his kids. And the Glock I had about a 5-pound trigger pull. So I'm at about 2.5 pounds of trigger pull in to a 5-pound trigger. And as I'm about to take him out, I hear the words "daddy," and it was nighttime. I didn't see him, but I heard the words. And then these little kids, one kid comes around from this guy's like backside, his thighs. This little kid was like 3 or 5. And I see there's 3 kids on the porch. And I didn't see him at first. And it was a legit shooting. It would have been, but as I'm pulling the trigger, like I hear God tell me, I didn't put you on this earth to take lives. I put you here to save lives. And I holstered my weapon, and I've been kickboxing for quite some time up to that point. So he charged off the patio, off the porch. We're in the South. Everybody has a porch. He comes off the porch. I charge him, and we connect. And I blacked out, not because I got knocked out, but I don't know what's going on. But by the time I came to, probably a second later, he was on the ground and he had a cuff on one wrist. So I cuffed the other wrist. And then I think I put my 2 weeks notice in like 3-4 months after that. And that was the thing. So my mantra is change one life every day for the rest of your life. But I think that was the thing that like set the direction and set the stage for Think React Lead.
Wow, man, what a powerful story. So that was the trigger, no pun intended, right? The turning point,
Right.
the pivot point, right? What so from that point, what emotional work have you had to do to continue your journey as a leader, as an entrepreneur?
I didn't start emotional. So that was probably 15 years ago, maybe 17 years ago. I didn't start working on myself emotionally probably until 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you just
Wow.
embrace the suck, right? Embrace the
Right.
suck. Hey,
Right.
at least I
Right.
didn't kill him. I'm a man.
Right.
Bro, I had more night terrors, and not from that, but just you see stuff that just messes you up, but you don't realize it messes you up because you took the job and at least you didn't die. I didn't start going to the VA until like I was already coaching and traveling and speaking. I was already doing radio. I have a radio show here in Arizona. I have a TV show out here. But I was doing so much. And then it just came to a point where it was either get help or just get put under the, put into the dirt. So I just decided to get some help, and I got turned on to EMDR. So any veteran out there, man, like I didn't hear about it. I was some shrink in the emergency room told me about it, and I looked into it, and I did that probably 2 years ago, year and a half ago now, and I'll still go. Like I still go to the VA once a week or once every other week because I look at it like this: the brain is a muscle. Men, everybody has muscles. We go to the gym. We would like to go to the gym at a minimum 3 to 4 times a week, right? To develop our muscles so that they can be stronger for whatever reason. Maybe we want to look a certain way. Well, if we treat our body like that, which is a muscle, why don't we just treat, in my mind, I think, why don't I treat my brain like that? My brain goes to the gym. In this case, is the VA. I talked to a therapist on right now. I'm doing IPT, interpersonal therapy, and it helps my brain get stronger and teaches me how to deal with, like, working out teaches your body how to deal with ailments if you have them, right? They could be genetic, it could be hereditary, but when you work out, you live longer because you're teaching your body how to fight off different things. So EMDR, IPT, or anything else teaches your brain how to deal with certain things. So in this case, it's not genetic all of the time. A lot of times it's what you've seen and gone through in your past. So now as I'm developing my brain to make that muscle stronger, I can be a better dad. I can be a much better husband. I can be a better friend. And I have more clarity, and I don't have to see it as being weak.
Love it. That's exactly right. Love that. So one of the things that man I'm big on is like everyone should start some sort of emotional fitness program for all those same reasons, right? That you talk about is, we know spiritually we go, we feed ourselves hopefully on a regular basis, church and reading the Bible or whatever someone's faith background is. Physically we know, okay, going to the gym, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
like, well, man, like we all lottie dottie, everybody's got a being. Why are we not developing or working on an emotional mental fitness program to be as mentally, emotionally agile, healthy, strong, resilient, tough, courageous, brave as possible? And we're surprised why, man, why am I freaking out or why am I letting the stress and anxiety overwhelm me? Well, because how often have you
Mm-hmm.
been to the emotional fitness gym? Like you're not. So
Right.
you're emotionally overweight, you're emotionally fat, and you wonder why you struggle bus when something comes your way, got some emotional weights on the bar. It's because you haven't been working out, right? So I love that. I love
Right.
that. So what was it that 3 years ago, what was it that you were like, okay, snap, I need to start my emotional fitness program, mental fitness program. What was it
Yeah.
that caused you to make that decision?
We were in St. Martin on a private beach. We had just closed on the largest home I've ever lived in. And so it's not a mansion, but it's like 3,500 square feet. So that's the largest home we've been in. And I just got my Porsche. I had a lot of good things going on, but I couldn't feel them. Like I wasn't feeling any of it. Like I did not have the ability to feel, right? I knew what being in love, what it's supposed to look like. Hey, babe, I love you, right? I knew what happiness was supposed to look like. So I would smile. I knew how to act. I'm a pro at just being the person that's whatever room I'm in, they need me to be, right? But internally, I'm battling. And I was like, questions like, why am I not happy? I got all this stuff going on. Like I grew up in the hood, Section 8, and I'm racing Ducatis with my wife. We're in St. Martin. I'm on the Dutch side. We're on an island, private beach, eating lobster. While I'm there, I'm on the phone closing on a property. It didn't mean anything. And then when I got back, like 2 days after after we got back, so it was a day before Thanksgiving, my brain, and I'm aware enough to know something's off, but I kept hearing, kill yourself. It's time to die. Kill yourself. Time to die. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I've seen a couple dudes try to blow their heads off. Like I saw one dude, he murdered a family. And he took an SKS and tried to blow his chin off, but he ended up blowing off like this part of his face. I'm like, okay, I'm good. That would probably happen to me. Like I mess up a lot of stuff, so I'll probably mess up my jaws. I've seen dudes jump off of buildings, land, not die, but they're like retarded for the rest of their life. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, I've messed up so much in my life. I would probably mess up suicide. So I'm not killing, like I got guns all in my house, but I wasn't pulled to like do anything with them. And then, okay, if I take medicine, well, I have a very sensitive stomach. I don't like throwing up. I don't like the pain. So I'm like, but I just keep hearing, kill yourself. Like nobody cares. Like nobody cares about you. Kill yourself. And I'm sitting in the house by myself. And then all of a sudden, just like in the movies, I see every single dead body I've ever seen just starts hitting my frontal lobe. Every negative thing that's ever happened to, like all of it was like, and I said, you know what? Not today, Satan. So I just got in my car and drove to the VA. Now, up to this point, I had gone to the VA for help probably about 6 or 7 times, but every time I get to the front door, I would say, you know what? I'm good. And I would turn around, go home and I would mask the feeling and I go back to doing what I was doing. So I get to the VA, sliding doors open up. This guy, because of COVID, they have to, do all this stuff. Takes my temperature and he's like, how can I help you? And I said, honestly, bro, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to see tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to make it through the night. And he's like, and he looked at me like he's seen this before. And he took me down this, felt like a long, like a 1.5 mile long hallway. But we ended up at the end of this hallway. I'm in the emergency room and just next thing you know, I'm talking to a shrink and she says, so you want to kill yourself? I said, pump the brakes. I don't want to, but this is what I feel. She said, what do you mean you don't want to? I said, I got a dope life. I said, my wife and I race Ducatis. She's like, you race Ducatis? I ride a Ducati. So now we start talking motorbikes, right? And I was like, there's no reason for me to not be able to feel. I said, I have been way too blessed. All of my family, we all live on the same block. I'm pointing like the house is over there. We all drive Porsches. Like everybody's doing well for themselves. I said, I'm doing too well to feel the way that I feel. I was like, I don't know how to feel. And she said, okay. And then she said, EMDR. I was like, all right, I'll try it. And bro, EMDR, the business. I love EMDR. Game changer. So that's what led me to that's what started that push.
Wow, bro, that is amazing. Thank you for your vulnerability and transparency. Man, that is so powerful. And I think so relatable. So many people, me being in this EQ space now for 4 years, I've been on my emotional growth journey for 4 years, and I was 100% the same way. I was suicidal for 2 years, but this has been 15 years ago. Every day, dreaming about it, fantasizing about it. I couldn't.
Right, exactly. It's weird.
Nonstop. That's right.
Right.
It was like the Simon and Garfunkel song, "Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend." Right. That was
right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was my bro. And so, and then 2 years into it, for whatever reason, woke up the next day. Boom! I could see color. First time I could see color in 2 years because everything was kind of black and white and shades of gray, and also I think it was the first time I could hear silence. I walked out. I'm like, babe, do you hear that? And she's like, hear what? I'm like, the silence. And she's like, dude, what are you smoking, bro? Like, what do you mean hear the silence, right? You know what I'm saying? Because all I could hear was you're worthless,
the
you're a
noise.
waste of skin,
Yeah.
you're a waste of oxygen, like end it, right? All
Yeah.
it's like my playlist, bro, my suicide playlist was long,
was
bro. It was
thick, right?
it was deep, right?
Exactly.
And then thank God. So woke up the next day, boom, I could see color right here, silence, and boom, went to counseling, some spiritual counseling at the time, but still depressed for probably another decade. And then 4 years ago, yelled at my wife 3 times in 3 weeks, and she's like, dude, 3 things, don't ever do that again. You've never done that
Right.
before, which means you got more issues than Time Magazine. I was like, snap. And she was right, right. You know what I'm saying? And so went to counseling, and the counselor turned me on to 2 revolutionary new concepts called feelings and emotions, right? I was like,
right. Like, what?
What are you talking about, bro? Started this emotional growth journey 2 years deep, and all these areas of my life started to change for the better. My faith, my
Mhm.
marriage, my parenting, my fitness, my finances, my business, everything started to change. I'm like, babe, I got to start a podcast because I can't be the only emotionally clueless guy out there, right? There's got to be other nobles out there. Started the podcast, and that started the journey. But like that concept that you shared of like, I wasn't like I was numb. I didn't feel anything. Like it was like nothing would like, you know, the pokes, like I don't feel that. Like I'm not feeling the pokes, like
Right.
emotionally nothing was registering.
Right. But you knew how to act.
Right. Oh, dude.
I knew how to be around Christmas. I knew how to act on my birthday. I
That's
knew how
right.
to act at somebody's wedding. I knew how to just, hi, I'm Don Faussette. How are you? Meanwhile, I got demons in the back, like all in here.
100%. Well, I was a people pleaser addict. I was emotionally needy. I was toxic positivity. I was emotionally codependent, but I had all kinds of food addict, all kinds of issues, man. So yeah, I could play the game. I could put on the face. But yeah, dude, inside, man, it was acid. It was just rotten, like just. And dude, I got saved. I started a relationship with the Lord, and I was a little kid, but it was totally works based, performance based, like. God
Right.
only loves me when I'm performing. So now I went through this
Right.
this funk, the hell phase. I'm like, oh, God hates me now. God hates me now. And so but thank God, right? The capital T truth is what got me through, but also the capital G grace got me through, right? Truth and grace.
Ain't that right?
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? How did you learn to forgive yourself? How did you learn to have grace and patience with yourself along this healing journey?
How did I learn to forgive myself? I don't think it was a learn. I mean, I did, but I think it was more out of necessity. I have a son, man, he just turned 12. And I wouldn't want my son to have to deal with this kind of stuff, right? I grew up just like probably you grew up. The men we saw, they don't cry, right? You know, they maybe smack a couple women around. My dad didn't do that, but you just, you're a man's man. And our generation of men struggle with being too soft, but they're not soft. They're just not their dads. They're not their uncles. They're not men of the 80s. And we're not supposed to be men of the 80s. We're supposed to be men of the 21st century. So I knew that in order for me to be fair to my wife, to love my wife, she always had to walk on eggshells around me. And she has a master's in psychology. But so I've never cursed at my wife, and I've never yelled at my wife. Now, granted, we've only been married for 6 years, but there was something that she would say, like, anytime my feelings got hurt, I would just shut off, because I don't ever want to forgive. As long as I don't say anything, I don't gotta say I'm sorry. But she was like, I'm like, babe, I didn't say anything. She said, your silence is evil and it scares me. And she was always, I could tell when she would want to say something, but she wouldn't. And she would act almost like I've beat her before. And my wife's a tough chick, but she was just like, I don't know what he's going to say. Now, granted, she's heard me say some things in my sleep, and that probably, caused that fear. I changed me for the purpose of not wanting my son to be afraid of me, my wife to be afraid of me. And the moment like people started to see the change, like my family, because we have Sunday dinner every Sunday, I find out they're like, man, for the last 4 or 5 years, like we were all afraid of you. Like we didn't know if one Sunday during dinner you would just snap. I'm like, y'all idiots didn't want to tell me this. Like, you could have told me this before. And they all were like, no, we couldn't because we didn't know how you were going to respond. I'm like, wow. And then I started thinking, how many other families are dealing with a dude or a female that they're afraid to talk to? A bunch. So I talk about it very openly because I know I'm not the only one, or I wasn't the only one. So I just knew I had to get better. And being better was allowing my wife to come home into a space of solitude, not a space of, this brother's crazy. I don't know what he's about to do.
That's right. That's so powerful. So back to environment, right? Man, dude, that's so, because I say it this way, like I would go from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk in 0.3 seconds.
Yeah, immediately.
You know what I'm saying? And it could be, she looked at me sideways. I'd go to a 10, right? And like you said, what's the emotional environment that created for my wife and my daughter, right? And so then we wonder why our marriage or my kids are acting up. Well, because it was completely unpredictable emotionally. And
right.
And so then my wife told me this. She's like, Noble, after I went Hulk on the third time before we went to counseling, she said, do you realize that you can behave differently than how you feel? And I was like,
what?
I was like, babe, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's impossible. Right. You are smoking crack, girlfriend. I don't know what you're smoking, but there's no way. She's like, Noble, I know you can't, but she said there are a lot of other people that can behave differently than how they feel. And man, my head exploded. I was like, man,
right.
Like I hear you, but I have no idea what you are talking about.
I can't separate that in my head. Right.
And the thing because I was like, because this is how I would say it. Well, babe, when I am angry, notice how I said that. That's an identity statement versus saying I feel angry. That's different, right?
It's a disconnect.
I am saying it's my identity, which is not true. That's not, I am not the embodiment of anger, right? I am not anger. But when I started to change and get emotionally healthier, then I started to be able to separate stimulus from response, right? Once I started to learn and get emotionally healthier. So, man, I love that. So just hearing how, and that environment of how you have created that solitude, that environment of solitude for your wife and your children to grow up in an environment of solitude versus that, okay, well, is he going to be Banner today or is he going to be Hulk today? Right. That's brutal, right? That's brutal. So a couple things so you have said that the thing right now that is really helping your emotional growth, your mental emotional health out is you go to the VA a couple times a month. It sounds like you've done some EMDR, you've done the inner therapy. What'd you call that?
IPT, interpersonal therapy. Yeah.
Is there any other tools or resources that you do that is part of your mental emotional health?
Right off the top, having fun. So I'm big into I got a Jeep and we're putting a lift kit on it right now and larger tires. Like I'm into off-roading. I do that with my son. I race I race Ducatis with my wife. So having fun is the biggest stimulus for I think guys like us. The reason we joined the military is because we want to try something different, or we didn't want to go to jail at 17. Whatever the reason is, we've been taught to kind of push the envelope. But for some reason, we get older, we stop pushing the envelope because I don't know. Somebody told us we have to be more mature. Well, pushing the envelope doesn't mean being more mature. It just means like we just stop having fun. Just because you have debt doesn't mean you can't have fun. Just because you're depressed doesn't mean you can't have fun. I started off downhill longboarding. That was like one of my therapists a long time ago said, go back to doing what you did as a kid. I couldn't afford a mountain bike, so I bought a skateboard. So I got into downhill longboarding. And the other thing is that is priority for me is like my diet. Like food today has a huge impact on our mental health. And a lot of veterans grew up poor, and a lot of that poor mentality falls into how we eat, right? I got to eat everything on my plate. No, you don't. Or my kids got food left on their plate. I eat it. No, you don't. You don't. if my body wants a milkshake and I have a sweet tooth, I shut that down. I'm like, no, because that's not Dom saying he just wants the milkshake. That's my body, because I don't do any drugs. That's my body's way of saying you need to do this to offset how you feel. Nay, nay, nay. So I've learned not to be an emotional eater. I don't encourage negativity. So I don't yell at my wife when I'm mad. I don't curse at her. I don't curse at anybody. And if I am mad, I speak in this, not in a third person, but I'll say to my wife, like, you know what? You said A, B, and C for some dumb reason, or it hurt my feelings. Inside, I want to respond. My internal self wants to respond to you this way. Don't worry about it. I'm not, because it's not going to help us out and the goals that we have as a unit. And I don't want to scare you. I don't want to hurt your feelings, and it's not your fault that you didn't know that you said something to me that reminded me of something that happened to me when I didn't even know you. So I hear myself say all of these things. And what that does for me is it disarms Satan from getting into my life to control something positive and turn it into something negative. So I kind of speak, I say it out loud, right? So now I've got having fun. I've got my diet in line. I say how I feel out loud, right? And when I say it, I also have a resolve. And if I don't have one, we talk it through. And then doing what I do, like change one life every day for the rest of my life is my mantra. And I do that, but I also know my body. So in the military, we're get up at 5 a.m., work out, eat, boom, boom. Sometimes your body doesn't need to get up at 5 a.m. Sometimes your body doesn't need to work out at 6 a.m. Sometimes your body needs to work out at 2 p.m. If you're like self-employed and you can do that. Sometimes you just need to literally stop what you're doing because you're trying to overcreate a topic of content and go watch some stand-up comedy on Netflix, right? Or everything is not work out, sex, work out. Like that's not a normal life. And not doing those things in that order doesn't make you any less of a man. So but I know me, but it did start with like EMDR. But now on a day-to-day basis, there's some things, I might get behind on, but it's not the end of the world.
So you just said a whole truckload of stuff that involves self-awareness, which is
a lot of self-awareness,
which is a huge part of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop that?
I never done weed or smoked weed, however you would say that. I've never drank alcohol a day in my life. I grew up in a crazy environment, and I knew early on to not add anything internally that's going to make my mind think something else. I already have natural issues that I'm trying to control, that just Dom struggling with Dom, right? So adding alcohol to that makes it worse. Adding weed to that makes it worse. The VA will give you every bit of medication that they have access to. I don't want a Band-Aid. I'm self-aware enough to know that the pharmaceutical companies aren't in it because it helps you. They're in it because it pads their pockets. So why would knowing just a little bit about business, watch a couple Netflix things on, documentaries, you can put 2 and 2 together. Self-awareness, I believe everything I need to be the best version of Dom Faussette is already in me. Now, I might need to talk to somebody to allow me to tap into an area that's already inside of me, but I don't need it muddied by alcohol, by additional food. Food could be a drug, by weed, by pills. I don't need those in me. That's just me. For anybody listening and watching, if you go to the doctor and your doctor has you on a pill that does something for you, hey, that's between you and them. But for me, I don't believe in all that stuff. I don't think it would help me. Maybe in the short term it would, but I want to learn Dom Faussette. And it makes me a better coach. It makes me a better speaker. It makes me a better radio show host and TV personality. And it makes me easier to be around. I don't want my kids, we've all heard kids, oh, daddy's not on his Adderall or mommy's not on her whatever depression medication. I don't want that. I just want to understand me, but it might take me a year or two to really understand myself. But I don't want to be dependent on something.
Love it. And I think that's such a great, like, the way you kind of communicated that, I felt like it was like, the way I kind of like to receive that is you are on a treasure hunt or a discovery journey of who the amazing guy that God made you to be. Let that be a discovery journey and a process and a treasure hunt to discover what all the amazing stuff is inside of you by potentially going through the not amazing stuff that's inside of you in order to be the
Right.
best version of who you are, to be a better. And I love that because, obviously I do coaching as well, to be a better coach. Like, I can't, the reason I can coach other people through their junk in the trunk is because I'm on the same journey, right? It's not
Right. You've gone through it. You're just a few steps ahead.
that's it. I tell all my clients, I'm like, look, I am not the PhD from Harvard in behavioral psychology, right? That's not, if that's what you need or want, I'm not your guy. I'm just
Right.
I'm just a few weeks, months, or years ahead of you, but I'm still working on my stuff every day.
Right.
But I think that's what makes us relatable, right? Is we're going through our own journey. You know what I'm saying?
And it's not even just relatable. And you've had this happen where you'll be just in a grocery store, a department store, and somehow, some way a conversation comes up, but you recognize unhappiness in that person because you've been that person. And then you'll just kind of go into, you mind if I ask you a question specific to what you're going through right now? And they start crying like in the middle of the grocery store. Like, I can only do that, and I can only bring it up and then come around with a fix for it because I've gone through it. It's called discernment. Now, I don't do that with everybody, but I used to be the fake smile. That got decades of being a fake smile, so I know what it looks like.
Right.
When my clients tell me, oh, I want to get better in business, and I can look in their eyes and I don't see happiness, and they're married, that tells me, I'm like, bro, you want to do business because you think it's going to mess up your garbage relationship with your wife. And I've never met their wife. I don't even know. I only know they're married because of the ring on their finger. But I can see there's so much power a woman has emotionally that dictates how we're going to operate in our day, in our week. But again, we can only talk about it because we've been through it. But it does. It makes us a much better human being. It makes us a better coach, a better uncle, a better father, a better husband. Like my wife had said about 6 months ago, I feel very comfortable and I feel comfortable being around you, and you feel peaceful to be around. I'd never heard that before in my life.
Wow. I love that. That's your report card, right? That's
straight A's, straight A's.
That's right. That's proof of growth, man. I call it proof of growth. That is proof of growth right there, right? Because you can't fool mama, right? She's gonna call it like she sees it. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome, Dom. Okay, so wrapping up here, and I wish we could spend more time together, but hopefully we'll stay in touch.
For sure, you got my number.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we find you? How do we follow you? What's the best way to connect?
Dom Faussette on everything. ThinkReactLead.com is my website. Dom goes to the exact same website as Dom Faussette. Instagram is Dom Faussette. We had this conversation. I run all my own social media because it's what helped me start my business. I never planned on being self-employed. But yeah, those are all of the places, all of the things. My book is called my first book is Think, React, Lead When Success and Accomplishments Aren't Enough. That's a tangible book you can get off Amazon. But yeah, Dom Faussette is everywhere, brother.
Last question. What brings you the most joy?
Waking up and knowing two things. One, I'm loved by my wife, and two, I have forgiven myself. Like I love myself a lot. So those two things, and not in that order, because in order for my wife to increase her ability ability to love me, she can only love me up to the point in which I love myself. So as I continue to grow within and study myself and understand how I tick and how I talk, then and I value myself more. Now she can love me. The problem in relationships is we want our spouse to love us here, but we've only shown them how to love us here. So then we get mad when our spouses love us here. Well, in order for them to love you more, you got to love you more. So you grow a little bit more, and then they can follow you. They can't lead you in love.
Powerful, Dom. Cannot thank you enough, man. Thank you so much. Totally appreciate your wisdom and
Oh,
all the growth and the blood, sweat, and tears that you have gone through and been through and worked through
mhm.
and are working through to be where you're at today to contribute to the world the way that you're contributing, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Thanks for the invite, man. I greatly appreciate that.